We just finished up practice number 2 in preparation for our bowl game. You know, bowl game's not till December 28th, but it's a good time for us to kind of get started and get rolling. We had exams this last week and a few exams this week, so we're finishing those up, but going ahead and getting started with practice and kind of trying to do that around the exam schedule. So yesterday was our first day back out there and on the grass between the lines. Felt good to be back out there as a team, seeing guys running around. You know, make sure we get everybody reps at this point in time, and make sure we really focus on our whole roster. It's not necessarily about NC State right now. It's more about us and making sure we get back in the swing of things, and we're getting back into our calls and how to communicate and how we do. So we talk about how we do anything, how we do everything, and just make sure we practice good habits and good fundamentals and get back to those things. So that's where we're at this week. We'll go again tomorrow. Thursday will be our last day this week, and we'll focus more on NC State at that time. And then we'll have a long weekend and then bring the guys back next week and really be a game week rolling into game preparation and week rolling into NC State leading up to the bowl game. So fired up about the opportunity to go back up to the Military Bowl in Annapolis and D.C. I think we got 12 young men on our roster who were up there last time we were up there. Unfortunately, last time we were up there, we didn't get to play a game. We went through all the preparation to play a game, didn't get the opportunity to play it. So fired up to go play it this time, and fired up against to be NC State. And we're just excited to have another game for these seniors and another opportunity to go play. So,
Coach, how do you prioritize, DC search, bowl prep, player retainment, recruiting, how do you figure out what comes first?
You got to find enough time in the day right now. There's not enough hours in the day. It's a little bit of a juggling act, bowl preparation, obviously, and getting our guys back out there, moving around, running around, make sure they're ready to ride for that. Make sure we're doing everything we can to go win another game for these seniors, for our fans. We finished the season off really well, but we're not done yet. We need to go finish the season the right way. And then you got the transfer portal going on, whether you're trying to actively recruit guys out of the portal or keep your roster together, whatever that may be. Then you also got some staff changes that you're trying to, focus on, and a defensive coordinator, general manager, whatever it may be, and get those guys in place. So a lot of hats you're juggling, and have a great staff that's kind of keeping everything together as well, as far as they're focused on the bowl game, they're focused on the portal, some of the staff movements on me, and kind of taking it, step by step there, make sure we hire the right people. I think, anytime you're in an organization, whether it's out in the business world or a part of a team, you want to make sure you surround yourself with good people. And I think, I'm in charge of this thing. I'm leading this thing, but I want to make sure that I got other people to help lead this thing and do it together. We're all pulling in the same direction, and they're going to bring something to Pirate Nation that's going to help us go win games next fall. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, but we're getting through it.
Were you surprised at the transfer portal news from yesterday, and are you disappointed?
I would say hurt, disappointed would probably be the words. It doesn't surprise me. I think the more and more, and I was just talking to Big Tate going on the field, and we were talking about the portal world, and we were talking about revenue sharing, and we're talking about different things that's going to happen in the future. And I could see when I was talking about revenue sharing today with the seniors, they're like, well, where's my revenue share, Where's mine? And I was like, well, the thing about it today is, like, guys 5 years ago, the NIL wasn't really real. The transfer portal wasn't real. And Big Tate said it, and I think he's right. We may never see, like, the age of guys staying somewhere and being loyal for 5 years and playing somewhere for 5 years. I don't know that that's going to be the norm anymore. The guy coming 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, may be more of the norm than a guy staying, 5 years like many of our seniors have, and 6 years like some of them have. So I think it's going to go back and forth, and we just got to get used to it, adjust to it. For decades we've been seeing coaches do it. So, now we're seeing players do it. Not necessarily like it. You want to keep your roster intact. What's really upsetting is the windows still. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I understand we got to have transfer portal windows to get ready in preparation for the spring semester. But we're going to play a postseason game in the middle of a transfer portal window and free agency window. The NFL wouldn't have free agency in the middle of the playoff run. Like, what are we doing there? And I don't have an answer for that, but it's just kind of my, gripe and complain right now about the timing of it. If we're going to make this thing revenue sharing, we're going to make it a business entertainment, which it's really become. Let's kind of figure out how not to affect bowl games. Let's figure out how not to affect postseason play and do what's right. But at the same time, they are student athletes, so we got to make sure we're doing right for the students. So there's a lot of things that are above my pay grade. to figure out. And the crazy thing about all that is we don't sit on anything and say, hey, let's let this go ride 2 or 3 years. Let's let this window or this rule adjustment or this change go for 2 or 3 years and see what we do and don't like about it and pros or cons. We make it through 6 months and we're ready to make a new rule change. And I say we, I mean, it's coaches, it's everybody in that association that's doing those things and making those adjustments, and rules committee that's figuring those things out. It just seems like we'd let it go for a couple of years to figure out what's best, for student athletes, for the game, and college football in general. So, and we're not the only team dealing with it. Every coach I talked to last night across the country is dealing with it, and there's, and it's all levels. There's very, very few teams in this country. Probably the playoff teams aren't dealing with it as much because they're playing for a national championship right now. But I think the bowl teams and everybody else across the country, they are going through it.
Would it be optimal? I mean, in the future, again, this is more of a big picture question, but the year-to-year deal, you don't really know what your team's going to like year after year. So to have like a 2-3 year contract.
Let's sign contracts.
Yeah.
Let's sign. Coaches are in the contracts.
Right.
Let's, and if we're going to have revenue sharing, we're going to have NIL, and we're going to have collectives. Let's go contracts. And hey, if a coach or in the business world you break your contract, you owe money back, or you have something binding. So I think that's got to come. I don't think some of that's going to be pay for play, and I know we don't have pay for play, but essentially we do. And there's a lot of things. I mean, I just try to figure them out as quick as I can. Figure out ways to give the Pirates advantages to go win football games and build our roster. And we got to go from there, and that's what we got to deal with. Unfortunately, they won't let me make the rules right now.
What was the team's overall reaction in getting to play state and going to the Military Bowl?
I think just an opportunity to go play a bowl game they're fired up about, and it's kind of, rumors this, rumor that. They didn't know Boca Raton, Gasparilla, Cure Bowl, Myrtle Beach, Military, and then just to play an opponent such as NC State. And fired up to play those guys. And our kind of motto has been anytime, anywhere, anybody. And doesn't matter if it's, what color jersey you're wearing, red or light blue, we're ready to go. And we'll be fired up. And it's the biggest game of the year because it's the next game. But obviously it means a little bit something extra because it's NC State and just what it means to our fans and our players as well. They're excited for the opportunity.
Do you guys still view it as a rivalry? I know in the Zoom the other night he was saying that since it's not an every year occurrence anymore, that it might have lost a little bit of the fire there. Do you still see it as a rivalry? Yeah,
I think, I know Coach Dorn said that we don't play every year. And listen, I wish we would go back to talk about scheduling and rules, and maybe they'll make the commissioner one day. But I think like we should see more localized scheduling. Like we should play NC. It'd be great to play in NC State or North Carolina or Virginia Tech or South Carolina every year. And some of just the separation in football right now from a P4 to G5 is kind of frowned upon that. But I would love to play NC State or North Carolina. I think it would be great for our state. I know the state legislators tried to pass that last winter. I think that would have been good for our state and good for our economy and good for our fans. But I think anytime you're an hour and a half down the road and you're playing, whether you play every year or don't play every year, I think it's still a rivalry. I think our fans still get excited. They still think that's a rivalry. Our players still think that's a rivalry. And the thing on our roster, their roster, our guys are going to know each other, each other's players, know each other from high school or played against each other before. So that becomes a rivalry. I mean, when you're playing, a team halfway across the country, you don't know many of those players on that roster, or you don't interact with many of those fans. You don't have to go to work with them. You don't get to talk a little trash to them at work. That's not. But you're an hour and a half down the road. Yeah, that's what makes to me. When your next door neighbor is a state fan and you're an East Carolina fan, and you can walk out there and hang the East Carolina fan Pirate Nation with pride and talk a little trash to your neighbor. I think that makes it a rivalry. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
You mentioned this week's kind of focusing on you guys. So obviously you got to get the starters prepped. They still have a game to play, but are younger guys or guys farther down the depth chart seeing increased roles in practice this week?
Yeah, I think everybody gets reps in practice right now. Whether it's you're a starter, whether you're a third team guy, everybody has to get reps, get back in the swing of it. And those guys get reps throughout the season, but not as many reps they're going to get this week. And it's a good time to, build that depth, get those guys possibly ready for a bowl game. And here's the other thing, like in the postseason play, we got some guys that redshirted, only played in 4 games. The postseason doesn't count, so they can go play in a 5th game, and everybody's free game here. So those guys are back in action and ready to ride. You know, late in the season there, we were holding this guy for the 4th game here, or he'd played in 4 games, so we held him out, did some of that. But now you're ready to ride with everybody.
How is the DC search going, and do you anticipate maybe announcing a hire before the bowl, or is that too?
I would like to have those things done sooner rather than later. I don't want to put an exact date on it in case, you know, things don't go as quickly as I hope for. But, you know, I think one thing, you got to make sure you get the right person. That's the most important thing. The guy that's going to be fit within our staff, fit within our players and our locker room, and help us grow as a program. That's the most important. Obviously, I'd like to get it done sooner so my phone quit ringing. But, you know, that's important. I do see those things playing out before the bowl game, though. I think if we could get somebody in place and, you know, they could get around our team a little bit just to get to know our players get to know them, I think that would be the ultimate. Now, you got a lot of things you're dealing with. Some guys may have a bowl game to play themselves, or maybe in the playoff run, or doing some different things there. So you got some things you got to navigate through and kind of go about. But certainly you'd like to get your staff put together as quickly as possible. And more for this, like if you bring a defense coordinator here, for instance, or a general manager in here, they're going to help you continue to kind of bring players in, bring new talent in, you know, search things, and just an extra manpower to help go through things. So that's important too, in building our roster for 2025.
With, you know, the news with John Williams, you know, moving on, can you take us through that decision, and also just who will lead the team in strength and conditioning in the meantime?
Yeah, you know, it's nothing that happened there. There was you just thought we needed a change, a shift in direction, more than anything. And that's on me, and kind of what I want our football team to look like, what I want our team to be. And Coach Williams has been awesome to me and my family, and for this university, and to our players in our locker room. They have a great relationship with him, but sometimes change is just needed. It's not all bad. It's just needed, and just move in a different direction. Okay, but I think the timing of it, you would like to say, hey, we're going to keep everything intact until after the bowl game, and then make some decisions. I don't think that's fair either to individuals. It doesn't allow them to go look for other opportunities. So if you're looking at a person's best interest, you got to go allow them to look at some other opportunities and go find what's right for their family, and move on to the next chapter as well.
Anything else for Coach?